After you take away the
skin, muscle, skull.
what have you got?
A fax machine.
Heads. Today we're gonna learn about heads. Now, the first thing you see when you look at a picture of someone is probably the face, unless you are a very good person. Now, I have been drawing for a couple of months now, but the results are not very satisfactory. And as people say, the face or the head or the eyes, one of those things, are the windows to the soul or something, the main focal point, blah blah blah. I thought it was time to up my game a bit. Now, I don't want to get into it too much, because I'm sure you're not here to learn from a nobody, so I'll get straight to the juicy points. You start with a circle, then you have to cut the sides, because it is an 3D object, so instead of a circle, think of it as a sphere. At least that's what everyone says, and it works, it's good. You cut out the sides. You're not supposed to use the whole circle. Humans ain't built like that, unless you're going for a very specific style. But at first, you have to know the basic. So, using my previous known knowledge and the reference, I finished this. This is the front view, then the 3.5, you know, the most famous angle. Again, with the reference, keeping in mind how the eye socket dips in, and also the cheek, the teeth pad pokes out, alongside with the nose shape. Of course, can't forget the side profile. But from this, you can actually see, skull is not just a circle. It's actually longer. It's a bit slanted towards the end. Kind of reminds me of an egg, in a way. Also, of course, can't forget the top and the low views to keep every angle in check. And here are the results. From here, we go on to actual construction of the head. And there are plenty of methods out there. But apparently the most famous one, or one of the famous ones, seem to be the Loomis method. So this isn't my first time trying the Loomis method. I mean, I did draw before, so I did try to learn it before, so I'll try to use that knowledge to some degree. The rules seem to be, you have to cut the sides again for the circle, and then you take 3 equal parts. The middle part would be where your eyes lie, the top part is your hairline, the bottom part is your nose, and you take another one, same distance wise-ish, and that's where your chin is, so you connect the jaw with it. And from front view, my proportions were a bit off, but I think I managed to get it to somewhat presentable. And of course, the varying different angles. Of course, some with reference and some myself. Andrew Loomis has crazy measurements for everything. So if you want to learn more, there's a book, and I'm sure you can get into more details, but I can't. I'm lazy as fuck. So we're going forward with this. Now, having learned the basic structure of faces, I wanted to see if I could draw a bit better than before. So I looked up some references from Pinterest, and here are the results. Honestly, a bit better than I thought I would do, but there's much more to be done. So, eyes. I have tried to go through learning a bit better on the eye before, but it was only just the iris and the pupil parts and not everything related to eyes. So now I'm gonna try to go through almost everything, and I will give you as many as I can fit in this segment. From the basics, eyeball is just a circle, so cross-sect it to find the best pupil position, and then depending on the head angle, the eye would look like this. Forgot which YouTuber artist said this, but imagine the eye position for different angles, like a paper folded like this, or whatever helps you imagine it. Doesn't have to be paper. Eyes should always, or most cases, be one eye apart, so you can take the measurement like so. The pupil is not just a small circle inside a big circle, it is kind of like divided inside the iris, the white part. When the face is an angle, the eye dividing part will also wrap around the face, so the far eye will be less in width and will be less visible. And remember the divot inward, like the eye socket on skulls, so remember to do that as well. I saw this from Line Sensei. You can also draw most eye shapes with just only 3 lines, and then inside just put a small dot where the eye should be, looking, then the pupil around said dot. Now the eye can look wherever you want, and then just remove the excess parts. Eye isn't always just eyelashes and iris and pupil and whatnot. There's also the waterline and the tear duct. And here's the eye bag. Also, most people apparently get it wrong. The eye bag and the bottom lid are different things. At least this part is different. And then top lid, bottom lid, eyelashes, those are how it's broken down. The best way to make sure both eyes are lined up are to draw them at the same time and use guidelines so that the pupil, the lower lid, and the eyelashes line, or the top line, top part, all line up. This will make sure that nothing is misaligned and weird looking. You can also break the eyes into 3 parts, like so, and then depending on the angle, it will look like this. This is from Azur. And then trying most of this tips on a face, again, with couple references. Hair deserves its own video, at least one of another core features of a drawing if you like, but to put it simply, it breaks apart into 3 parts. The first, bangs. Second, side hair. And the third, the back hair. The hairline would start at the line we drew for the 3 different parts. Remember, one was the eye line, the other is the hairline, that was the nose, and then you added the chin or the jaw. And for the hair itself, everyone says to think it is a ribbon where it can overlap, twist towards, and gets tapered towards the end. And another rule for design is to make it big, medium, small parts like this, but don't put them in an order. Try to put them randomly. Like, let's say if after a big you do 2 smalls and then 1 medium and then do 1 more small. I feel like the more bare bones it is the better. At least that's what happened in most works that I saw. But still, we have to learn how it works and what the underlying shticks are. For more realistic noses, apparently from the tutorials I saw, you start with a diamond shape, cut out the 2 nostrils, then the bottom side, and then on the sides on the left and right, you do this and then connect it towards the top and done. Well, the nose has 4 planes. The big plane in the middle here, that's the big line, the bottom plane where the nostrils would lie, and the top where it's divided in like we saw it in the skulls, and the nostril looks like this, the 2 big gaping holes from this angle. Moving on to the lips, the edges would be kind of like triangles in a way. It'd be upward triangle or downward triangle. It doesn't have to be strict lines, it could be bendy as well. Upper part is also broken into 3 parts as most things, and the middle part kind of sticks out. So if you see it from a top angle, you see that this lip part is poking out from all the anime things you've seen. The bottom lip is bigger than the upper lip, broken into 3 parts again. If you open your mouth, depending on how you open it, the lips would change. Sometimes with only upper, but sometimes only the lower lip would change, or sometimes both. You can also draw the lips with these balls way, and if you are agape, like you are now, seeing how awful everything is, your teeth and tongue would be there. You'd have to think everything in 3D as well. The teeth has an upper set and a lower set, and you would see the front part, the canine parts, and then the wisdom teeth kind of part towards the back. Ears would normally look like this, but depending on the angle, it shows more or less, and the back looks like kind of a bean in a way. My weakness amongst many things, honestly, everything is my weakness. The box method helps with understanding which way the face should be looking and where the side plane is. But to help with how highs and lows should work, one of the best things is the mask. So the mask method, or the paper method, what it does, it shows that a mask or a page is getting wrapped around a sphere. So that way everything will line up properly, and then if you put a triangle or if you draw the jawline first, you can see how everything will kind of work out. Even with the paper method, the paper itself kind of wrapping around the circle, that doesn't mean the eyes will also kind of bend this way. Rather, the eyes would still be a front plane. So you just get here, get your straight lines, and draw your eyes from there. Trying to use triangles as a guide for the jaw is also a really good idea, at least It helped me kind of visualize where I should draw the jawline and kind of how I should draw it. Also, as a tip, make sure to not just connect it to the jawline, but kind of dip in a bit. I mean, we saw that from the skull. And from the high angle view, this is where his scalp would be. So you see all the hair partitions, it's divided into left and right. This is where the line would be. When in these angles, the ear and the facial features would be a bit different than normally as they would be, because you're looking at them from different angles. Like if we're from the below angle, the nose would show the lower plane with the nostrils, and they would be closer to the eyes. Also, the ear would be more in the downside. And the space between the mouth and the jaw would be a bit bigger, while the space between the hairline and the eyes would be smaller. This is my weakest part. Saw that it's not very good, so I tried to practice it as much as I could to some degree. And next step for me was to draw different angles and stuff from different artists, and so I did. But I guess I tend to just see and draw rather than try to understand. But this time I did try my best to get some knowledge from all these practices and drawings. And after this, it was again time to draw from Pinterest, idle references, and some other people's drawings to see if it's better, and I understood why they did it. And so
after all this, a few things I noticed is that my eye to cheek distance and the distance from cheek to jaw are a bit off compared to the others. It's because they did it so many times that they're used to it and it looks good naturally, but mine doesn't. Well, there's much more to learn and discover, I guess. I think I did manage to learn a lot from this though, and from now on, I feel like the heads I'll draw will be a bit better. I did this practice like months ago at this point, and I just kept living life, hence this took this long to get out. And hopefully the next video maybe will be on an anatomy, or maybe something completely different. I have no idea, but hey, thanks for sticking around. You're one of the good ones. I'll see you on the next one.